So, welcome again to it's episode 7 now of the podcast. So
We're veterans now.
yeah, we are becoming veterans, and it's funny you said veterans because obviously last week when we did our last episode, if any of you have watched it yet, Ricky started talking about aliens and black holes, and then suddenly both cameras cut out at exactly the same time.
Coincidence?
Exactly. So, but it cut out before we could say, thank you to the veterans and anybody serving now in the armed forces. Last week was Remembrance Day, and we really do appreciate all the sacrifices that you guys have made and are making, and it's made me think, recently. Because obviously, as you guys know, I follow American politics a lot, and I watch a lot of American interviews and things like that.
Yeah.
And anytime somebody comes on and says, that they're a ex-serviceman or military or whatever, they always say thank you for your service. People walk down the road in America, if they're military, they're treated with the utmost respect and reverence. But we don't do the same in this country. No one ever says to someone in the army, or if they find out that they're in the army, thank you for your service and whatever. I just don't feel like we have the same respect and reverence.
I think the difference with America is everybody seems to be really behind like the war campaign that they, continuously have across the country, and we're almost like the little puppet of the Americans, aren't we? And I think we're a lot more aware of kind of, some of the wars that maybe America enter are maybe for political reasons or for gains of the country, and I think we don't necessarily believe a lot of the reasons in this country for going away. We're a lot more aware of. I mean, there was the whole Bush, we went to weapons of mass destruction. That obviously wasn't true, and then so I almost feel that our country associates the army with being involved in wars that we perhaps shouldn't be involved in. And so there's a bad stigma attached to our army, where in America it seems they disassociate the political agenda of America with the army, and I think it's a lot more, they give respect to the army, and that's, in my opinion, what it should be like. I think we should definitely give our soldiers respect, because at the end of the day, they're just going to do what they've been ordered to do.
They're following orders, yeah.
Yeah, they're following orders, yeah, but at the same time, we also need to be aware that a lot of these wars are maybe unnecessary, you could say. I mean, the invasion of Syria, for example, recently, when they were trying to claim that Assad had, shot down, I think, some of his, or used chemical weapons on his.
Weapons, yeah.
But it's murky waters, because obviously we're only getting told what we're hearing on our news media outlets.
Yeah.
We never know the agenda behind it. And also, it's like there was. I remember there was one time where there was some sort of media outrage that he'd shot some of these rebels that had been trying to storm the palace. I think it was in Syria, and because they'd retaliate by shooting and killing these people, there was a big media outrage. Yet, if that was America, and you've got people going towards the White House with guns. The first thing the Americans are going to do is deploy the army, and they're going to be shooting down these people.
If it's a foreign nation, yeah. If it's a foreign nation attacking, yeah.
Yeah, no, but if it's an actual, even if it's civilians attacking with guns.
Yeah, with guns.
100%.
Yeah.
I mean, even the other day when there was the Capitol on the riot, the riot Capitol.
January
one
6th.
Woman, was it a woman that?
Yeah,
Where
Ashley
one woman
Babbitt.
jumps over and she gets shot down.
Yeah.
And she wasn't holding a gun. She wasn't pointing a gun at anyone.
Yeah.
So it almost comes across as one rule for the Americans and another rule for the other countries. When they're doing something and they're trying to defend their palace, where the media is outraged and something must be done. Yeah, America can go and shoot down a woman who's just climbed over a barrier without any kind of gun. She's not causing any harm. She could have easily been restrained, and yet they shoot at them and there's no outrage here. Yeah. So it's. I've probably gone off on a bit of a tangent there, but it's.
No.
No, I think you're right in what you're saying. I was just thinking, there's a few things that I thought about whilst you were speaking then. I thought, obviously you focus a lot on US.
Yeah.
And I was going to be quite controversial in I'm going to be quite controversial in what I say now. And I'm not saying this is right or wrong, but obviously the UK do follow a lot, don't they?
Yeah.
And despite you agreeing that the UK should follow the US, etc., but obviously that's our strongest ally. So even though we might not agree with the war,
Yeah.
do we
don't
have to
upset.
keep that allegiance, strong, and make sure that we kind of keep that one allegiance because that's our strongest allegiance. Do you see what I'm saying?
No, I understand
feel
what
like
you're saying.
I've
Yeah.
got that
Yeah,
across
yeah.
good.
No, you're right. It's basically, if the UK didn't have America as its ally, we'd probably be open to attack by a lot of, China, Russia. One of the reasons why we don't get messed with so much is because we do have these strong, powerful allies. So it's like you just said, you don't necessarily want to upset the hand that feeds you. But
And I feel like, sorry, just relating that back to 9/11, I feel like I totally agree with what you're saying. Although these years on, I think it's quite clear that we shouldn't obviously got involved, right? And the actual reason of us going over there, weapons of mass destruction, etc. Weapons of mass destruction were never found, right? But in relation to 9/11, I feel like our hands were tied and we couldn't turn around at that point and say, no, sorry, Bush, we're not going to follow you in there.
Yeah.
We kind of had to in that respect. And obviously it's devastating because of how many servicemen we lost.
And I know you feel quite strongly about 9/11. Obviously, we know 9/11 was a catastrophic event, and we're not playing that down. But you feel strongly about there were a lot of incidences that led up to that attack on 9/11.
Well, I think it's easy to kind of assume that like our media perspective is we are the peaceful ones. We only retaliate when something is done, and that was the whole thing of 9/11. We've been attacked, so we must attack back. And yeah, if it's a genuine attack, yeah, we must attack back. But it was kind of, I think, how we went about attacking back first of all. And there's this kind of myth, I think, almost that the terrorists are kind of out there, and and we're trying to stop the terrorists, but a lot of that terror, I mean, terrorism has gone up exponentially in the last, since we started invading Afghanistan, Iraq, and all these places. Because when you retaliate by bombing these countries into an oblivion based on one group of armed rebels or whatever you want to call Al Qaeda, it's an organisation separate to the state of Afghanistan or Iraq or any of these other countries that we invaded. When you retaliate by then bombing these countries and killing civilians along the way, you're going to create more hatred. And so,
Of course.
so the best way, what is really the answer
Well,
to
look, I
to
mean,
stop?
in an ideal world, I've said to you, we've got kids, right? Dad, Ava hit me, right? Ava, why did you hit him? Because he hit me first. Yeah, but she hit me first, but he hit me first, right? And I always say to my kids, one of you has to break the cycle, okay? Now, in an ideal world, the cycle would be broken. Right, we've done wrong to you, you've done wrong to us, we've done wrong to you. Somewhere along the line, the cycle has to be broken. However, with 9/11, we're talking here about, I mean, let's face it, 9/11 made America look, it made them look like fools, really. Because
It showed their fragility as well.
Exactly. And
That's
it
what it
showed
did.
how penetrable their defence is.
Yeah,
Because here's like a group of guys who got on the plane with Stanley knives, right? And they've managed to infiltrate the US, cause all that damage, right? Despite of all the resources, all the weapons, everything that America have got. Now, America, that happened on the world stage. There's not one person in the world at that time who did not know about the Twin Towers happening. Can they just be seen to back down from that? Of
course they can't.
Can they just be seen, regardless of what's happened previous, can they afford to be seen to just back down and not do anything? Or do they have to send a
They have
message
to
to the rest
escalate
of
it
the world?
as well.
They do, yeah.
Don't
No,
they?
I agree,
They
I
can't
agree,
be
yeah.
seen,
Yeah.
okay, I'm going to retaliate by sending a plane back to you. No, I'm going to escalate the situation now, and actually, I'm going to show you who's boss in this situation.
Exactly. It's like showing the kid who's dared to speak back to the parent. Right, I'm going to show you now never to do that again.
Yeah.
And that's basically what happened. But
But in doing so, you've then created more
course you have.
terrorists.
Of course you
have. Of course.
And it's just an endless cycle of violence. Isn't it?
exactly,
And that's what has been going on.
It is a perpetual cycle of violence.
Yeah.
It's like I said to you, the boy who saw his dad blown up in Afghanistan. and the boy who kissed his dad goodbye to go to work and never came back that day, is either one of them entitled or more or less to having that sense of wanting revenge?
And one boy,
know.
potentially one boy grows up to be, quote unquote, a terrorist. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, all that hatred towards the West, willing to do whatever needs be, sacrifice their life. Another boy grows up, joins the army,
Yeah.
and feels nothing about, you know, shooting up a
Exactly.
village or something along them lines. Obviously, I'm doing kind of, you know, hypothetical
Yeah, yeah.
situations, but
both have a justified sense of
of course they do. Yeah.
you know, and vengeance.
I think the only thing with that is, I mean, if we're talking about progression now, when you're talking about Al Qaeda, that was one group of men. It wasn't state-run, whereas America, the retaliations are state-led. Now, I know, obviously, there has to be some sort of retaliation, and you have to, you know, but how do we explain the invasion of Iraq? How do we explain the invasion of Syria? How do you explain the bombings of Libya? You know, all of these, like, in that, you know, we had to retaliate, but there seems to be almost too much meddling from the Americans consistently over the past.
And what does this bring us back round to? Pretty much every single episode that we have, it always brings us back to the shortcomings and the bumblings of the government. It's the politicians again who cause the problem. You know,
It's a game of chess, isn't it? It's a game of chess.
It's a game of chess, yeah.
You know, even obviously we're saying they're Islamic terrorists. They would say they're Islamic freedom fighters. You know, they're fighting for freedom against the West. Do you know what I mean? And then obviously you've got the military personnel in America. What they're saying is they're trying to protect the West. They're trying to protect everything that the West stands for. Do you know what I mean? This freedom, this liberty, that obviously a lot of people aren't fortunate enough to have in the East.
One man's freedom fighter is another man's terrorist. You know, and we have to sort of just respect, you know, the guys who are willing to say, look, regardless of what the politicians are doing, whether I believe in it or not, I've got to go out there and I've got to put a united front on, and I've got to do what I feel I need to do to protect my country. The bravery the sense of bravery that takes, I couldn't do it. You know, I've got a friend of mine, you know him as well, Scott. He's ex-military, and we were just talking the other day. He was in the army and he's been to Afghan and Iraq and all that. And we were talking about money, you know, and sort of when you were younger, how we wish that we'd saved a bit and been a bit more sensible in money, blah, blah, blah. And he was like, you know, I was in the army, everything was paid for me, accommodation was paid, food was paid, everything. So all the money I had was just, I could just piss it up the wall. I wish I'd have saved a bit more. But then he said something that was quite profound. He's like, but at the end of the day, I didn't know if I was going to be alive the next week. So I thought, just have a good time while I'm alive. And I thought to myself, a young lad of like 21 having that mindset, not knowing if, putting themselves in a situation where they don't know if they're going to come back alive. Mate, I couldn't do that. No. You know, I'll be the first to say a pussy or whatever, but I couldn't do that.
And it's the polar opposite of how I thought at that age. You know, at 21 years old, you're thinking about all those years ahead of you. You know, okay, I'm 21. You know, what am I going to... I've got a milestone of 30 in 9 years' time. You know, in between now and 30, what am I going to do? How am I going to build something for myself? And then etc. But to think like, actually, I could be dead tomorrow.
Yeah.
It's almost difficult to even fathom, isn't it?
Of course.
And also, Remembrance Day is obviously remembering all the wars that have passed. So if you look back to World War One, when people were literally getting thrown over trenches en masse in order to gain, you know, 200 yards, and the majority of those people would get shot down, if not all of them. And you know, it was almost guaranteed.
It was the draft then as well, wasn't it?
You had to,
you had to join. If you were a young fit lad and there was nothing wrong with you, you had no say really. And if you tried to dodge it, it was an offence. You know, imagine that.
And it goes back to that kind of, you know, the game of chess that we're all involved in, and just the pawns being, do you know what I mean, those frontline soldiers. Could you imagine like storming the beaches of Normandy? Like, you know, those people up top have said, right, okay, one last push, we're going to, you know, and obviously looking back now, I'm glad that we did, because obviously that gave us the upper hand in the war, didn't it? When we were at that stage losing it. But they decided, right, okay, we're going to storm the beaches of Normandy. Do you know what I mean? When the back of those boats come down and you've just got automatic machine guns just pointed directly at it.
Yeah. And you can't. I mean, I remember when I was.
Some good sound effects, weren't there?
I remember when I was younger, and I was actually. I think I was about 13, and it was a 15. Saving Private Ryan. And I went to the cinema. I managed to get into the cinema to watch it.
Bad man.
But what is that?
I said bad man.
Bad man. But
We've got a criminal with us.
but mate, that first scene on the beach,
Yeah.
you know, because we'd seen films of war before and all that sort of stuff, but that was just so like cathartic. You felt like you were there. You know, and there's guys like, there's young kids and they're crying for their mom and they've got their guts out, and one guy's walking along holding his own arm, and guys just getting shot randomly in the head, and it's like, you can't fathom being in that situation.
No.
And you imagine now, your lad's 11, another 5 years, 16 they were when they're drafted, another 5 years, and he would have been on that beach. You know, back in that time, he would have been on that beach.
Well, even younger, because there was cases, weren't there, where a lot of lads were lying about their
wanted
age.
to, yeah.
But also, the officials were turning a blind eye because we just needed the numbers.
We needed the numbers, yeah.
Do you know what I mean? There many cases of, how old are you? 14? 16, thanks.
Yeah.
I mean, it seems to me like which country is actually trying to go for peace? Is there anyone really actually trying to achieve peace, or are we all just part of this war machine that is just designed to keep going in order to fund these like weapons producers? I mean, if war was to stop tomorrow, there's going to be some hotshots somewhere who are going to be stand to lose billions and billions of dollars. Are we just part of this one bit? Because even when it comes down to like movies and programs, like it's almost like war is like sensationalized. Like, you know, there's the camaraderie. You watch these films and you have this warm feeling. Oh yeah, you know, we did this and they did that, and you've got Marvel, where I know it's completely different because you're fighting aliens, but it's still this kind of like my mate believes that Hollywood and all these, like, he stops his son from watching because it's all very violent, isn't it? Even like from young cartoons, you've got Spider-Man. It's all fighting, it's all violence, it's all, you know. Is it all part of this keeping us, you know, violence, keeping us? Oh yeah, we want to beat them, they want to beat us. Where is the kind of, I mean, I know I sound I'm being a bit, you know, airy-fairy, but, you know, why can't we create cartoons where there's like unity? And
but is it also something primitive inside of us? Do you know what I mean? To see, I get what you're saying, but like Marvel, a lot of it's around like justice, isn't it? Yeah. Do you know what I mean? The bad guy destroying the good guy, destroying the bad guy.
Yeah, and in every camp, like we believe in America and England that we are the good guys, but you go and ask, you know, Afghanistan, Libya, etc., and all the Middle East who the bad guys are. They're not going to say themselves. No. They're going to say us. So it's about perspective as well, isn't it?
Of course, it is.
You know who's. So
and it's like the cycle needs to be broken. Somewhere along the line, you know, it just needs, then a line in the sand needs to be drawn.
But that's what I'm saying.
But it never will.
Is there any real...
Who's going to back down first?
But is there any real want, though, when there's that much money at stake as well? When you're making so much money from, you know, creating wars and, you know...
I think it's protecting beliefs as well. I think that's a big part of it, isn't it? You know, we want to hold on to beliefs we have in the West, and the East want to hold on to beliefs that they have in the East. You know, it's funny you're talking about kind of Hollywood and media. I can't remember what we were watching the other day. I can't remember what we were watching some film, but I remember saying to Leah, isn't it funny that every single Hollywood film that comes out, the bad guy is either a brown terrorist or someone from like Russia.
Russia, yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's always the case. And then I said, wouldn't it be interesting to watch like the Russian equivalent to Hollywood, right? And seeing all the villains being these American or English guys.
Yeah.
We should do that one day. Watch one like a Russian James Bond or something.
Yeah.
No, we should watch some Indian films. They're the best.
They're the best.
Oh, they are the best.
Oh gosh. Yeah.
So what else happened this week then, boys? Anything to talk about?
There's obviously that incident that happened in Liverpool. I don't know
Right.
too much about it, but from what I've heard, obviously Remembrance Sunday, there was a guy got in a taxi to go towards like a Remembrance Sunday parade. This guy obviously had terrorist intentions. The taxi driver knew about it, so locked him in the taxi, and then the bomb was detonated in the taxi. So unfortunately, obviously the taxi driver's died, but also, he's a hero. He's an absolute hero.
Right, I see.
He's selflessly given up his life to protect those of the parade, and how devastating that could have been,
Yeah.
Because I just assumed that was like a criminal act, like some sort of gangster was trying to blow up the taxi driver, or so it was actually a terrorist attack.
I think so.
Because I only heard bits of the story, but
I mean, I'm going to have to fact check this, and I will fact check this now. I'm sure he was actually a Christian.
Okay. That's straying from the narrative.
Yeah.
But while you just check that, also that in British Columbia, the senator that was defaced. Did you see the picture?
No,
I sent the
didn't see
picture
it.
in the
Oh, right,
group.
okay.
And we'll put it up on the screen now. But so there's a cenotaph in British Columbia with all the names of the soldiers, obviously that from the local area that died. Which
Right.
is, we all every area has one. And someone has put on there the true. What was it, Ewan? The true heroes are the unvaccinated. Are the vaccinated?
The vaccinated, right?
Yes, I will get that up now.
And
Yeah, the real heroes are the vaccinated.
how
So you're comparing you getting a jab to fighting in a
exactly
war.
fighting in the
ridiculous,
World
isn't it?
War. Yeah.
Yeah.
But how the narrative, right, from the media and the government have emboldened somebody to have that point of view,
Yeah.
and feel so emboldened that they can go and feel that they're justified to write that on that.
Because that has been part of the narrative. It's like, do your bit for society, get the vaccine, stay indoors. Like you're almost at war with this with this virus.
Yeah.
And the very nature of you staying in, keeping 2 meters apart, taking the vaccine somehow makes you, you're fighting.
Well,
a war
I
and
think they
you're a
use.
Sorry, boys, can I just very quickly just say, just to go back to what I was saying, just because I obviously want to make sure that what I'm saying is factual. The reason I said Christianity, it said that he had converted to Christianity at a nearby cathedral. So that's why I mentioned Christianity. I'll have to look
Well, he's
into
converted
it.
to Christianity.
He had converted
okay.
to Christianity, yeah. So I don't know if he did it in the name of Christianity, but I'll have to look that up and then we can...
Most likely, did you say he's from Jordan?
Yeah, I think he...
So most likely he's probably witnessed some sort of, act from British or American soldiers.
Yeah.
And he's just trying to take out some revenge. Not that we're justifying it, but we're just trying to figure out why someone would do that. But
yeah, just like we said earlier.
Yeah, just trying to just be empathetic and not necessarily justify it, but just try and understand it. Why someone would do that. But just going back to that, a lot of the tactics that were used when from the media when COVID first hit were very similar to the tactics that were used during the war. Rosie the Riveter, women have to do their part, and the posters with the king on saying your country needs you. Yeah. All that sort of it was you did get that feeling, didn't you? Do your part, save lives.
Yeah.
Don't go out. Make sure that you're keeping 2 meters apart. Now it's get yourself vaccinated so that you're doing your part and you're protecting others. And it does have that sort, and I think people then get this full sense of, oh, I'm a hero.
Yeah.
Because I'm doing my part. When actually you're not a hero. You're doing something to maybe lessen the chances of you getting a virus that you've got a 98.3% survival rate for.
I think it's higher than that, isn't it?
I think it might be 99.3 or something like that. But are you really a hero?
Yeah.
Can you really be compared to someone who?
And it's sickening that someone's actually done that. To face that, these guys who, like we spoke about, put themselves in those situations. you know.
And fought for the freedom for you to be able to do that.
Yeah, the only reason you can rock up with your spray can and to face it is because of these guys.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The irony in it.
It is. It's crazy.
Did you do your fasting? You said you were going to do some fasting before the.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
So about 16-hour fast.
Nice.
I mean, I was fasting quite a lot before I did my back in. You know, I was fasting because I told you about fasting, didn't I?
Yeah.
And I was fasting quite a lot, and with fasting, if you can, have you ever fasted?
Yeah.
So the first couple of times you do it, you know, you can't stop thinking about food, and you feel like, you know,
It's breaking that habit, isn't it? of
exactly.
eating?
All you can think about is like the next meal that you're going to have. But honestly, the way you feel when you've had a fast, how light you feel, and how clean you feel, and how much energy you've got as well. And you know, there are a lot of benefits to fasting, which we'll probably go into more detail in another video. But yeah, I did a fast and feel good for it. Did a couple of runs last week for the first time in years as well. So
Smashing it.
doing
You not
it-
tell
see,
this
doing
guy's
this,
looking great.
Well, doing this podcast, right, and you see yourself on the camera.
Yeah.
I noticed I am looking.
Hey,
a
the
bit,
camera adds £10.
it does add £10,
Yeah,
but
true.
I've had 2 years where I've could hardly walk. So all that time and taking all the ibuprofen and the being constipated and everything, it's caused me to put on a little bit of timber. So yeah, I'm slowly trying to get myself back to
Watch your space.
some sort of form of glory. But
Yeah. Well, I mean, about 5 years ago, when I put on not a massive amount of weight, but more weight than I'd usually have been carrying, I started fasting, and I started off with I think it was 14 hours, then 16, built up to about 18. But I think the best way, personally, I think, to lose weight is to actually when people say, "Oh, can't you carry?" I think just stop eating. Have periods of the day where you just cut out eating, and then you eliminate the choice of, shall I or shan't I? And you also get used to the feeling of being empty, and that's actually quite a nice feeling. It becomes quite a nice feeling, because far too many people are used to the feeling of constantly being satisfied and full, satiated, And that's why, I mean, obviously breakfast, they say, is the most important meal of the day, but actually you're just breaking your fast.
Yeah.
And there's so many positives that come from fasting, not just from a weight loss perspective, but from increased growth hormone.
Yeah.
It helps repair cells. There's all sorts of
I
benefits.
think you're more mentally alert as well.
That's
what
what
I
I
found.
You can have more energy.
autophagy, where your cells actually renew, so you can actually almost reverse the aging process.
So it's
Because you're allowing time for your body to not focus on just,
Digesting
shit, we're digesting food
Exactly.
all
Definitely,
day, every day.
And your body's able to use that energy that it would the thermogenic energy that it would normally use to process food.
Yeah.
It's able to use on other
Like burning
bodily
fat.
functions, like burning fat, renewing
Yeah.
cells, renewing bones, all that sort of stuff.
But it can almost get too addictive, and you almost get to a point where you have to remind yourself to eat, or you have to actually say, well, actually, I'll step away from it now, because I mean, you can lose too much weight, and you can get used to that feeling of being
And
empty.
your stomach shrinks.
You
find yourself not being able to. I mean, you can eat, Ewan, can't you?
I can eat,
You
yes.
can eat, but I mean, we can all.
I'm very
we can
proud of
all
that.
Actually, eat. You can eat as well, but your stomach shrinks, but your brain still wants to eat
Yeah,
that
of
food.
Although we
so-
can't quite have the two pronta, so
okay, two front, yeah.
two pronta,
Yeah.
Did have to yesterday, just saying though.
Well, you gave off to me, but you bowled it.
Why you got to tell the viewers that? Come on. It shows you though that we've been conditioned,
Oh,
yeah,
definitely,
and breakfast, mid-morning snack, lunch,
Yeah.
mid-afternoon snack.
But again, it all comes down
dinner,
to
supper.
overindulgence, doesn't it? It's like you don't make money from people not eating and
Exactly,
just
yeah,
eating,
yeah, yeah.
vegetables and rice and cheap grains and whatever. You make money from encouraging, look, eat, have your breakfast, have 6 meals a day, have protein shakes, have this, have that. And, and that's what, I mean, the majority of people, I mean, I don't know what the exact statistics are, but the majority of people are overweight.
Oh, yeah.
And that's because you encourage, look, break your fast. Don't go too long without eating. And actually, it's from what I've read and from what I've discovered when I've kind of done fasting myself and how I felt after doing it, I think it's bad information, and I think more people need to be aware of the health benefits of fasting and how it can make you feel.
But also the spiritual benefits as well. There's
Yeah.
as well. Sorry, there's a lot of religions.
Yeah.
Christianity, Buddhism, Islam, Hindus, they all have
An element
a
of
recommended
fasting, don't
element
they?
of
Yeah,
fasting in their diet to spiritually cleanse
no doubt.
yourself,
Yeah.
and also, you know, to put yourself from an empathetic point of view in a position of somebody who, you know, doesn't have the choice whether or not to fast. They have to fast because they're starving, you know, and it makes you appreciate just what we've got. But the problem is now is that with diet and everything is everybody wants a hack where they can have have their cake and eat it.
Yeah.
So, you know,
100%.
rather than eating, just going straight to the source and eating like a piece of fruit or veg, we have to create these like chocolate bars or these really tasty drinks or these snacks that contain one of your 5 a day. But actually, how does that compare nutritionally to the original source, which in many cases is usually a lot cheaper and a lot more accessible?
Yeah.
Well, and also like when you do fasting, you don't have to make those choices because you've only got 6 hours a day of an eating window, let's say, or 8 hours a day. You get to that eating window and you might eat, but then you're not that hungry, so you can't really cram in that much food in that eating window. So you can kind of eat what you want for that period of time.
Yeah.
I wouldn't suggest just going and eating junk. If you want to do it properly, eat good food in that period. But you can kind of eat what you want. And then when you get to a point where you're maybe doing 20 hours no eating, 4 hours eating, again, it's even less time to try and cram in your calories. So for me, it's the most black and white way of losing weight, I'd say. Just stop eating, fast.
But the fact that it's the most black and white way, it for corporations, it's the most unappealing way as well, because how do you set? I mean, there's apps. I use an app called Fastic, which is great. You know, you track your It helps you track your fasting and all that sort of stuff. But other than that, what money is there to be made from fasting?
And for the average Joes as well, like going back to what you said, it's so simple, but it's almost too simple, isn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, you want to lose weight, just fast. But that's not too appealing to me. I want to lose weight, but I still want to have 7 chocolate bars a day.
In the morning. I got to have my toast in them. I can't start the day without my toast.
You hear that all the time,
all that
don't
sort
you?
of stuff.
I can't live without my biscuits.
Well, I mean,
so instead of having custard creams, I'll have Weight Watchers version.
Yeah. I mean, one of the earliest things, breakfast is the most important meal of the day. And that's the earliest, it's like, you need to have your breakfast. And maybe for a child, you could argue, get them well set for the day, especially if they're going to school and they're not going to be, but...
And who's pushed that message as well? A lot of the cereal manufacturers, and look what it is. Yeah. It's just
corn.
Exactly. Just heavy, sugared carbohydrates.
It's cheap food that's been processed to make it even more appealing to kids.
Yeah.
So, I mean, have you seen how much a packet of cereal costs now?
I know, mate.
If you want to buy like a box of Kellogg's Frosties, right? It's like £4 a box. You get about eight or 9 bowls out of it.
Also, I remember, I can't remember when it was ages ago, watching something about like cereal boxes, etc. If you go down the cereal aisle, look at how bright they are. Look at how most of the boxes will have these bright, bold colours, will have these kind of cartoon characters to appeal to the children.
And a free toy inside.
And a free toy enticing you to buy their product. And it's so true. It's not like, it's not a bland box, is it? I mean, like bran flakes. Like, what kid chooses bran flakes? I mean, look at that box compared to something like, I don't know, like cinnamon grahams or something like that. Do you know what I mean? Which is like corn-based and full of sugar.
Yeah.
Exactly. But a few years ago, they tried to ban that, didn't they? They tried to ban the use of cartoon characters and mascots on food products because they said like it was misleading kids and all that sort of stuff. But the food companies all banded together, lobbied to squash that.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Yeah. Because it's such an intrinsic part of their campaign, isn't it? We need to get kids to almost pester their parents that they want this brand solely based on the marketing that we do.
Still to this day, when someone asks me who's my best friend, I say Ronald McDonald. He's my best friend.
Yeah.
I love that guy.
Yeah.
But and Tony the Tiger. I mean, you know, we all
yeah. Cocoa Pops as well.
Cocoa Pops.
Have a bowl of Cocoa Pops. There's that big cartoon sketch of the crocodile.
And Snap, Crackle and Pop. The
Yeah.
You know.
Those guys.
Right?
Cheerios.
Cheerios.
It was Cheerios one.
No, you had the Honey Nut Monster.
I'm just mentioning cereal now.
No, but you know the Honey Nut Monster.
Yeah.
All these
Chocolate pillows.
So
You do like some chocolate pillows.
No, mate, I love chocolate
I've watched
pillows,
you with
yeah.
chocolate pillows.
I love them, yeah.
But you know that's the thing. It's like you're never going to see. You're never going to see a cartoon character on a piece of broccoli or whatever because it's not.
That's true, yeah.
It's just it's not.
Who's this
appealing.
joker?
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know, let's push things that we know kids are going to love. We know that they're going to be addicted to it because sugar's addictive.
Yeah.
And we know we're going to make a lot of money out of it because the markup on cereal must be like thousands of percent.
Oh.
What's the markup
Yeah.
on broccoli? It's not much, you know what I mean? No one's becoming a millionaire for selling fruit and veg.
Well, you say that. I'm sure someone probably has, but yeah,
Well,
you'd have to sell a lot of it.
but,
Yeah.
You know, you have to sell a lot of it, and
In
it's
comparison, though, to
comparison.
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing what people actually do make money off. Like there was you hear of these people that they grow potatoes and sell potatoes, and they're multi-millionaires.
Yeah.
So there's
Yeah, I mean on a large scale.
Yeah, on a large
of course,
scale, yeah. I'm sure people.
I imagine the profit margin on a bag of potatoes isn't as much as it is on some of these other processed foods.
Oh no, definitely not. Yeah.
The whole point of the thing with processed food as well is that it can constantly be engineered.
Yeah.
Because it's processed. Potato's a potato. You can change the way that you grow it and whatever, but potato's a potato.
Yeah.
Whereas when you've got a processed food, you can dial up, right, let's add a little bit more sugar to make it sweeter.
Yeah.
Right, if we're going to reduce the sugar, right, if we reduce the sugar, it's going to taste like shit. So what do? We reduce the sugar, but we increase the salt and we increase the colourings and the preservatives and the added flavourings and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
All the time they're just tweaking it. And you'll see something that says, 0% sugar. But you look at it and it's high in fat and it's high in salt.
Or it's got like aspartame, I think it's called. It's like
Aspartame,
Diet Coke.
yeah,
People,
which
go for Diet Coke because it's got no sugar in. But little do they know, a lot of people, that the other ingredient that's creating the sweet taste, aspartame. Is it aspartame, yeah.
Is cancerous.
Is cancerous?
Well,
yeah, because
probably worse than
Diet
sugar.
Coke's worse.
Worse
than
than
full fat Coke, isn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah,
That's
you know
why there's a lot of people who say die. It's Coke.
Yeah.
Okay, right.
Well, with diet, anything that's diet or, these low sugar drinks and flavourings that taste really sweet, right? What they do is when your mouth tastes the sugar, okay, your brain is getting ready for all this sugar that you're going to be putting into your body. So you get this massive insulin spike ready to be able to process that sugar. But then when the sugar actually goes into the body, it's been tricked. There isn't actually any sugar there. So you drink a Diet Coke, your brain thinks, right,
It's sugar.
we're having
spikes up the insulin.
exactly
But
spikes
it
up
doesn't
the
receive
insulin.
any sugar.
And then you've got this excess insulin that needs to be used but isn't, and that's when you're more likely to get insulin resistance and diabetes from having diet products than you are from full sugar.
Wow.
So
It's mad, isn't it? But it's
people
promoted as the healthier
it's
option.
promoted as the healthier option because again, people
Misconception of sugar.
have a misconception of all food and all
diet in general, then that's because we're never really taught it. Like
We're not
diet
taught it,
should be the
but-
number one lesson at school, because how best can you stop, heart disease, cancer, etc., and prevent it? Not stop it, but prevent on a larger scale. It would be to teach people properly about diet and about all these little intricacies of certain things contain this and this is healthy, but no one does that because it's. At the end of the day, it's going to eat into the profits of these companies that are pushing it on
Theory
people.
and practical.
Yeah.
Sit them down, teach them about it, and then teach them how to cook.
Which again comes down to, are the government really, looking out for
They
our...
don't want you to.
Is it their intention to look out for us, or is it their intention to just keep us on this cycle of, consuming
Of
and
course.
paying and working and,
Imagine if what you just said happened, right? They rolled out nationally, a curriculum that spoke about diet, taught people how to make meals with fresh fruit and veg, etc. Imagine the profits of McDonald's like that.
Mate,
Disappear overnight, mate.
Yeah.
you know, I think two things that need to be added to the curriculum. One is diet, and the other one is finance.
Yeah, finance.
Kids
as well,
need to
definitely.
know about finance. They need to know about APRs. They need to know about interest
Compounding.
rates. They need to know the compounding effect of money. You know, Albert Einstein said the eighth wonder of the world is compound interest.
Yeah.
Those who understand it make it. Those who don't pay it.
Yeah.
And you know, we don't know any. It's taken me. I'm 30. I'm in 35 this year. I'd say it took me up until I was about late 20s, early 30s, for me to understand how to use my money correctly, how to invest it correctly, how to,
Yeah.
you know, understanding compounding interest, the importance of assets, the time value of wealth. You know, the longer you invest something and leave it, the more it's going to grow over time. You're not taught any of that.
No.
You know,
And also just being aware of what's coming in, what's going out, and
budgeting,
you know,
simple budgeting.
budgeting. Yeah, that's just as simple as
No,
that.
simple budgeting.
Yeah.
You're not taught that, but again, you're not taught that because it's to the banks and the big companies. It's to their benefit. You know, they want people to constantly be in debt, constantly just be buying. Okay, just buying on.
Finance.
Like you said, we're a throwaway society.
100%.
Taking out finance all the time. You want a new car? No problem. Here you go. Finance. You want new clothes? Here you go. Finance. You want a new watch? Finance. And before you know it, you're basically enslaved to the bank for the rest of your life, because what you don't look at, or what they don't tell you, is, well, actually, it's like 38-40% APR, you know, and you're actually going to end up paying nearly double what the actual price of it is.
I know.
And I think we definitely have become a throwaway society. Like when you, like our mum, for example, she'll save like tubs to be used for this or that, and there's been other examples that I've like seen recently where I've seen older people, oh, you know, you can use that for this, or you can. Whereas our first instinct is to just throw it away. I mean, we do the same with our phones. You know, we spend 500 to £1,000 on a phone, and every 2 years we pretty much throw it away and get a new one.
Yeah, so talking about the phones, I think you're totally right. Every couple of years we throw away the phone, etc. But they've also got us in a cycle where you're almost forced to upgrade your phone.
Yeah.
So this is the 10 now.
Yeah.
And I've been thinking probably for the last couple of months, I need to upgrade this phone because the battery life is now shocking on this. I have to, honestly, every couple of hours I've got to now charge it if I'm using it frequently, which I do. So they get you into the cycle because I know there's a conspiracy around Apple, etc. But I think it's almost proven that as
It's not
the
a
more
conspiracy. They
it's not
got,
even,
they
no,
got,
it's not, is it? Yeah,
they
I
got
was
done
gonna
for
say.
it. Yeah.
But
So basically, they were caught. The downloads, you know, the
It's the
updates, or
upgrades,
whatever.
isn't
Yeah,
it?
the
Yeah,
upgrades were purposely
slowing down
phones, so that you get to a point where your phone slows down to a point where the battery's rubbish now,
unusable.
and yet people are still going and buying iPhones and getting the latest
symbol,
one.
though, isn't it? You know,
I mean, for me now, I have no Huawei. I don't know if I've mentioned that before, but you know, I wouldn't go back to iPhone because of that. Because I
You
think to
just
myself,
like being in bed with
if
the
that was
Chinese
any other,
communists.
if that was any other organisation and they had been caught purposely slowing down and, you know, affecting your product that you paid a lot of money for, and let's not, you know, 500 to £1,000 is a lot of money to pay for something, right? If any other company had been caught doing that, right, you'd boycott them. Well, I'm not buying from them again, you know.
Yeah.
Whereas for some reason, people just continue to go back to Apple and continue to buy the phones, and you know,
because
they've.
I mean, I know you don't like Apple, you have Huawei, but they have created a superior product that everybody wants.
See, I disagree. I think my Huawei is just as good as the.
We'll see.
I've used both. And I know you have
Huawei,
as well. Yeah, you couldn't get used to it. Yeah,
it's not as.
It's the interface, isn't it?
Exactly.
It's the way you
like you scroll up on an Apple phone, and it's like literally as you touch it, bang, it's gone. With a Huawei and other Android phones that I've tried and looked at, mom's got a Samsung Galaxy S or something like that.
Yeah.
You swipe up and there's a lag. You click on an app, there's a lag, and that's what I didn't like. Whereas with Apple, it's like it just seems. But
And you get
I've
used
not had
to
that
it. You get
experience
used
from
to
it.
like
Yeah,
the
you do.
user
Yeah,
interface.
Exactly.
Like,
But mate, it's so easy to get used to another interface
It
as
is.
well. And for me,
but also
I mean,
as well, what they do is they create. Sorry, I'll cut
no,
you
that's
off
fine.
there.
No, you carry on.
And we'll go back to him. But they create this. So you've got all these apps, right, that you've now downloaded, and you've used your Apple subscription to subscribe to and whatever. And then you just think to yourself, you know what? If I was to go to like Android now or whatever, I've got to transfer all those apps over to that phone, and there's maybe apps that I can't get on Android that I can get on Apple, and vice versa.
Yeah.
And that's how they kind of get you as well.
plus the additional products. So, I've got an Apple phone, I've got an Apple Mac, I've got AirPods, they're all linked. I've got an iPad, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Everything's linked. It's, it's almost like ease of access now to go. Because I think there are better phones out there.
Yeah.
I saw the new Samsung the other day. I was kind of
great,
blown away that you can fold
Flip it,
and goes into a tablet and everything.
Yeah.
But to go onto a Samsung, it's almost like I'd have to start again.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And one thing I do like about the Huawei is there's so much more you can do with it, in terms of like, you can, because Apple phones, unless you jailbreak them, you can't really mess with the operating system much, can you? It's like, but with Huawei, because it's an Android, isn't it?
Yeah.
So you can do a lot of things. You can add certain things to it, and you can play around with them, and you can, so they are, in that sense, a better phone. But I don't know. I think I've just got used to Apple now, and that's it. But I know you love.
What do you
I
guys?
love my work.
Huawei, Samsung, Apple? Tell us.
Tell us. Yeah.
I mean, I've had my Huawei now for 3 years, and it's still not slowing down. So
No.
this could last me another 7 years, possibly.
It's basically,
I'm going to probably
Ricky
get an upgrade.
loves Huawei.
I do, yeah. They're good. They're good.
They are good. But so I think we'll wrap it up there. But we are getting some feedback from people about certain things that they want to see, and we are taking that on board. So, we've had people who want us to discuss diet in depth, and we're actually going to do like a Pop Pod special where we're actually going to sit down and have a bit of a friendly debate about diet. I think I'd probably be more of the moderate. Ricky's kind of like the hardcore vegan. I'd probably say plant-based. Ewan's the hardcore carnivore advocate. So we're going to discuss that.
Well. Ricky Bella.
We're also going to discuss. We've got some stuff that we're going to talk. We've touched on it today, but we're going to talk about finance and give some tips on how to get your finances in order and start building towards your future. Because this is the Popper Pod. We do talk about some stuff's trivial, some stuff is quite deep, but we do also want to help people who are watching become better versions of themselves. So we are going to start to talk about that. We're going to talk about, we touched on it today, fasting. We're going to talk about fasting. But we want to hear from you. What do you want to hear from us? What more do you want to see? Is there certain stuff that we talk about that you don't agree with or you don't like us talking about? Is there stuff that we talk about that you want us to touch more on? We're just three mates who get together and just have, quite interesting chats, and we thought we'd put them on a
Tuesday's
podcast.
my new favourite day.
Exactly.
I love it.
But we also want it to be meaningful.
Yeah,
and we want it to
if
be,
you can take little nuggets of information away, then that's great.
Yeah. So until
Been
next
good,
time,
lads.
It's been emotional.
Awesome.